Hello guys, welcome. Today we're going to be discussing a bit about Tailwind and the benefits of using it in your project and some of the downside. But take note, this particular video is biased towards Tailwind. All right. So I started off CSS, but I quickly adopted Bootstrap because it felt right. It felt like what was meant to be used for front-end projects. But then quickly you had this complaint of like every project was looking the same. But I mean, with a bit of styling, you can always veer away from that. Like um, I always had like a base like file where I make my modifications to whatever Bootstrap had to offer. And then when Tailwind came on board, I resisted for a bit to pick up Tailwind, but when I finally picked it up, I was glad that I did. So wherever team you get to, you might find it hard to actually convince like folks why they should adopt Tailwind, but most especially for teams, I would encourage you to actually use Tailwind because compared to using custom CSS, because one of what you might end up doing is either you have to build your own tailwind, or at the end of the day, or you would use the custom CSS up unto the point whereby you are having so much issues that tailwind should have solved in the first place. So I once had instances where I had, or I've had several instances where I had to defend tailwind as regards writing your own custom CSS library, and I'll just share with you because I'm writing a post. I'll just share with you before I publish the post some of the benefits around using Tailwind. So, one of the things that made me appreciate Tailwind was I in the past I had picked up a little bit of Flutter, and then having to write like styles as component, like this sort of like the concept of styling as component, which is common with whenever you're writing like mobile applications. So that gave me insight that perhaps like having the styling located in another folder constituted the bottleneck. It made it hard for you to actually debug your styling fast enough. You had to like go to different files to wonder where it is, and then but coding with layout as components made me realize that okay, or it took away that need for me to go to a different file because the style is the component itself. It kind of made the template bloated, but it was much more of a better experience for me. And I'll tell you some of the ways that I curb some of these issues people complain about Tailwind. So um, so I'll just get into some of the reasons. The first reason why I like Tailwind is that it actually allows you to achieve dry CSS, a very lean CSS. Some CSS projects have actually achieved CSS, like the compressed CSS of around, let's say, 3 kilobytes and below. Because at the end of the day, there's a way you use Tailwind. If you use Tailwind in a lean way, you can get lean results. But if you use Tailwind with JIT mode, having custom styles all over the place, you still have a very large CSS file, but Tailwind has the foundational elements to help you achieve very, very lean CSS file. Then the next one is it's very easy for new devs to pick up. I've noticed whenever I have a new person on board who have not even used Tailwind before, it's not a question of picking it up because it's like, how would I call it? It's close to CSS itself. Like, it's human readable, right? So I realized that whenever any new person comes on board, Tailwind is very, very easy for them to pick up. Then the third point is it actually helps you build a style guide easily. So one complaint or one thing people usually say in a team is okay, in a front end team is we're going to use custom CSS and we're going to build a style guide. But oftentimes that never happens. They become a lot of backlogs, right? People don't go back to optimize their custom CSS. But when you use something like Tailwind, you already have a base which you can start from, right? Which most people do understand, and then you can easily extend Tailwind. You can use the Tailwind allows you, it has a configuration in the first place, and then it allows you to combine multiple classes to create new class names. For me, I do create class names like Flex Center, where I combine Flex, Item Center, and Justify Center. I use that a lot. Then the headings. the different headings. I usually create headings one, headings two, heading six classes for myself. So like I keep consistency in headings across the application or website. Um, I love using Tailwind, especially when building website projects, because you can easily achieve consistency, and there is no issue of sites looking the same, because when you can configure it to look as unique as you need. um, Also, it helps to improve the debugging experience or the dev experience, right? When you want to figure out what is wrong, it's very easy, because there in the template you can actually figure out what the issue is, or did you use a wrong styling, instead of having to go look for the CSS file itself. I've even noticed places when non-devs, non-technicals help us even debug. They say, "Oh, I think you're using a wrong style. I think the spacing you're using here is not fine," because they could just simply inspect the layout and then detect what the issue is. So I think it's something that's very good for both non-devs and devs alike. Then it's easily extensible. That is another one I mentioned somewhere. So you can even write plugins. You can use existing plugins for Tailwind. You can configure it. You can add styles together, which I encourage you, to make for much lighter CSS. You know, then also it works well like modern component libraries these days. I don't know how many I've mentioned, but maybe you can count them in my post. I would attach it once it's ready. So modern component libraries like Nuxt.ui, Radix, there's Daisy UI, Flowbyte. They all use Tailwind like on the base. Just that some of them don't really do a good job of like purging the CSS properly. Like I'm still having an issue adopting Nuxt.ui because of that, but some of them are able to, like, with configuration, you can still get that dryness of Tailwind. So it has great support with a lot of these component libraries. If you don't want to write your own, and then yes, if you also want to write your own component library, it also makes it very easy for you to do that as well. You're not really thinking much about a separate style file. You can export everything at once. And I've even written projects where I wrote, let's say, close to zero custom CSS, maybe some inline CSS here and there, but like I've shipped products where there's basically no extra CSS file. Everything is all powered by Tailwind. Pardon me. So it also, I guess this might be the 7th point. It facilitates speed of development, you know, by merging styling into template. I think I mentioned this before, but this is one of the points I wanted to buttress. Then number 8, um, it helps you to achieve the smallest file size possible when it comes to CSS. I mentioned that. It's good for when you're targeting high page speed scores, right? Because you have a very lighter file, you can actually achieve high page speed scores when you're optimizing a website. And I guess also improved user experience for web apps. And then Tailwind has a large community. There's almost no problem around Tailwind that you wouldn't find a solution for. A lot of conference videos, tutorials, and things like that. Um, and it's also in active and agile development. The team is very innovative, and they always think of better ways to do styling. There's some new competitors in the market right now, but for now, Tailwind is stable enough and reasonably forward thinking to keep using for the nearest future. Then 12, you can also use it to develop email templates. Some of these new email templates allow you to use Tailwind as well. um, if I can remember one, I used recently, but like Tailwind is becoming mainstream, like beyond just CSS to being sort of like a language. You might need to write your own, what's it called? Would like say converter now or something. But even yeah, graphics libraries like Satori, also account for Tailwind. Right. So readability, yeah, I mentioned this. Non-technical folks can read Tailwind easily. They don't need to look for a CSS file, and they can understand what's going on. So it also helps you learn CSS. This topic I'm writing about, which I call retro learning or backward learning, sort of like Sometimes you don't need to learn the basics first. You need to learn using an easier approach, and then it will give you an understanding to learn the basics in the first place. So I usually encourage this for beginners. Do not stress yourself, or if you're finding it hard to learn the basics, just use something simple, and then it will give you an understanding of the basics in the first place. But make sure you still come back to learn the basics. Yeah. So it's good implementing great and complex layout. Like it gives me speed actually. Like whenever I see some of these dribble layouts, like today I was checking out for some layouts on dribble. Just going through them, and like I just do them for inspiration actually, and see what is going on in the UI space, UI UX space. And so I try to critique what I'm seeing. I try to like learn from the interactions, So Tailwind helps me to rapidly prototype these things. I might see some kind of UI or interaction that looks challenging. So Tailwind can help me. Sometimes I just open up the Tailwind playground, and then I try to see how to achieve that layout. So Tailwind is very helps you to achieve like containers, grid, rows, all that, very, very easy. Micro interactions as well. So it also has great support for responsiveness, mobile responsiveness. This is a great one. Even down to these latest features of is it responsive containers or container sizing? Like you can actually style something based on the size of its containers, not the window now. And that is something I find myself using a lot these days. So it can power interactivity and transitions very easily as well, but it might not be that flexible. Sometimes you need to write custom CSS to get exactly what you want. um, then there are lots of template libraries available if you need to scaffold a quick HTML static site. There are a lot of template libraries out there that are built on Tailwind. A lot of dashboards built on Tailwind that you can buy or download for free and then use. um yeah, it has great AI integration these days. There's this site v0.dev. Like AI is basically is can easily pass Tailwind and like spin up UI. So I think Tailwind and AI is going to have a great time. So also facilitates developer designer synchronization. I think is something that, like I mentioned, non-devs can read through. So the designers can also check out your style guides. This, like, depending on what you're using to set up Tailwind, you can actually set up or you can provide your designer with a page of all these styles implemented, which they can confirm with what they have on Figma. So it facilitates that developer and designers synchronization. Um, yeah, like I mentioned, it follows similar layout conventions like styling as components, where you pass props as some of the styles or modification as props, you know. Then it also, yeah, very important, it reduces the potential for styling conflicts. So one of the things I notice a lot of the time is that people who get stuck on using custom styling, if they're not diligent enough to follow up, there's usually conflicts whereby one style that has been applied here with the same class name is modified somewhere else, and then you have something in production. These things are not always easy to detect. So Tailwind is a good way to avoid it. So some of the complaints people usually give around Tailwind is like it makes your layout very feel the class names, which I think you can reduce if you use if you kind of like merge classes, like using the apply thing in Tailwind. If you kind of merge classes into one, for example, your headings, some of your layout like flex center, things like that, your body text styling, you can actually skip some of these duplicate stylings. Like if you take time to actually study your layout, you realize things you do regularly, so that can help you reduce that long span. Then I use pog a lot because it helps me to read faster, and it compresses my layouts and makes sure that so I'm able to accommodate more class names. You could also export the names into like a different file or composable or something like that, and then import them where you need them. Um, then some people also feel like it's too easy, it's too easy, or it makes you not learn CSS. Like I said, you can learn it in reverse, right? By using Tailwind, you can get a better understanding of Tailwind itself. You can always inspect the code and see um, what it has to offer. Um, then some people might say, "Oh, they look the same." I've debunked that. That you don't have that issue with Tailwind because like it's very configurable. So you might have so many objections around Tailwind, and I'll usually say, or I usually not really combative around it, but or defensive. But what I usually encourage is if one is not going to adapt Tailwind or a tooling similar, one needs to look at how they have solved some of the problems Tailwind is solving while using custom CSS. If you need to build a brand style guide, then you need to build one that is consistent, free from conflicts, right? If you need to adopt some toolings like post CSS, then you have to do that and then make sure that we are not reinventing the wheel unnecessarily. So I guess it's still similar to the same argument around like using some libraries or not using libraries, right? But if you're not going to adopt something, make sure that what you're going for can serve you well and you're not missing out. So thank you for coming to this video. I hope I've convinced you to stay with your projects. I hope you can also share this video to convince some other people. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Thanks. Bye.